Okay, so I'm just gonna see if this works now. Um, I changed some settings. Uh, okay, so I'm just gonna see if this works now. See if it cuts out some settings. Uh, okay, so I'm just gonna see if this works now. See if it cuts out some settings. Uh, just keep moving around. It looks like it's not dropping frames like it was, and this little square is staying green. And before it would like moving around. It looks like it's not dropping frames. It would change to yellow and red and shit. And this little square so I want to say that was the issue. It would like I mean, it's only been like 1 minute, so I don't want to jump the gun, but maybe that was the problem. I want to say that was the issue. Um, and the kilobytes per second is like staying the same, and it's staying green. Um, and the picture quality like looks fine. If we pull this up, and it's staying green. Um, let's see if it actually looks good. I mean, I'm an idiot. I was looking at the wrong thing. Let's see if it. Yeah, so you can read it, and that's all that matters. Okay. Cool. So it actually looks like it's working finally. Now, whether or not it's gonna stay working, I don't know. Maybe it will. We'll see. I'm just gonna keep. See, so we have 23 megabytes per second. So I'll just pause that and. Okay, so let's do a little bit more and see if it continues to work. So that I can know, like, if I like post like, hey, I'm gonna stream or whatever, and then anyone goes to watch it, it's like fucking skipping, like, yeah, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And then it like cuts off in the middle of me talking, like 6 minutes later. You know, it's I don't really care so much about viewership, honestly, but like it's just kind of tacky, you know, like it's like why would I go through the process of fucking trying to stream at all if it just doesn't work, you know? So I uh, hopefully this fixes it, and then I just won't have any problems with this anymore. And then like now I know, can't believe this, that the reason I was having internet issues was because I was streaming at too high of a bit rate. Probably because my wireless adapter is like a cheaper one, and it's like capacity for upload or whatever is not high enough, I guess, to support high quality streaming or 1080p at 60 frames per second streaming. Uh, Dumb. So I bought a new motherboard for that. It's funny. It's kind of sad. But on the bright side, I was able to get a better motherboard and some new RAM. I actually had ordered a new CPU, or I thought I did, but the order like didn't go through. Um, I mean, I still could get that CPU, which is a better CPU. That my I don't think my other motherboard supported it. Anyway, I'm gonna try to do a little bit more coding before I call it a day. So I changed this to the draw 2 because it needed to be changed. And I was questioning about the layer being changed to 0. So like in round reset, we changed the display layer to 0, and I was concerned about that because, well, the draw animation. Let's see. So after this happens, it calls win not winner output. It calls win check to see if they won, and then since nobody won in this case, it would call the draw two. Now the draw two is over here, and the first thing that happens is the draw animation, and that's what draws the cards staggered on the screen. But let's see. So as you can see in the draw animation, the function doesn't change the display layer. And this is actually where the display layer like should be changed, I think, instead of being changed in setup, because it's setting it up to be staggered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the display layer. So like that should be in this function if that's the reason for the display layer being set that way, and I'm quite certain that is, but I'll just check to see. Like I already looked at this before. I'm looking at shit like 2-3 times in a row, but that is how it is sometimes. So we have the card X, card Y, card display layer. This is just where it's set in client. That's for DirCheck. This is card movement. It's always changed to 9999. And then here we set the display layer based on like where it is, so in the card group and all that. So this is actually lets me know, because I needed to be reminded, that the display layer like is always reset to what it should be based on, you know, where it's placed visually, what card group it's in and all that. So that lets me know that, well, that's the way that it's set. Let's progression. These are all backup files. We don't have to look at those. Okay, so we looked at all that. So we can close this search, close old client, and close card. Go back to progression. Okay, so let's open up setup, and we'll see the section I'm talking about, where the display layer. Okay, so right here I see the display layer is set to 1. Okay, right, this is the preemptive value, and then we increment it each time we iterate through the deck for each card. So this starts off with display layer being 1, and then it changes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 108 for each card. And this is so that whenever we lay out the 108 cards in the draw animation, they are like, they overlap each other as it would be, you know, if you had a real deck of cards. So yeah, this is this code exists in the create double deck function. Now I'm quite certain well, actually no, it's not. It's not in that function, because this is the create double deck. It's in the create card function. Sorry. Okay. So create double deck, and no, it's not. It's in the create card. So we have 3 different functions. All right. So we create the card, we create the card group name, and then we assign the card ID, and then we increment the card ID. Like, wait a second, where? Okay, so this is not in the function. This is just in the file itself. We don't actually have an if name is equal to main, which we should, because if we don't, that means anytime we import this file, which I don't necessarily think we do. Oh wait, no. Okay, so this all exists within the larger setup function. So we're actually safe here. Um, so this, right, it's kind of odd to define functions within functions. That's probably not the way to do it. Um, it's not like the Pythonic way. I don't think you should define a function within a function. I don't think that's really Pythonic. I think you should define the functions with an F, um, ph functions outside of all the other functions. You know, like in the global scope of the file, like this one is. Anyway, let me ask ChatGPT what its opinion is on that, because I'm actually not positive on this. And it looks like we're 11 minutes in, and we haven't had a crash yet. So that's actually pretty good. But I see it like dipping into the red a little. But the it seems to be working like okay. I mean, it's not cutting out. So it actually looks like it's working. But it's kind of like, what's that thing? Like when you look at it, it doesn't react, and then when you look away, it does. Like as soon as I quit worrying about it, it's gonna quit. Like it's gonna stop working. Once I stop worrying about it, it's gonna crash. Like as long as I'm like talking about it, it's not gonna crash. And then as soon as I'm like, oh okay, it's better now, it's fixed. Well, then it's gonna crash. Like as soon as I quit worrying about it, but it looks like it's running really smooth compared to before. It wasn't running smooth. Once I stop worrying about it, that's an indicator that like as long as I'm like talking about it, it's not gonna crash. And then as soon as I'm like, oh okay, it's better now, it's fixed. Well, then it's gonna crash. um, so, but it looks like it's running really smooth compared to before. It wasn't running smooth. That's an indicator that it. This is. It looks fine. Like it seems like there's no drop frames or whatever. Everything looks good, like good enough. It's a little bit fuzzy. I do notice it's a little bit fuzzy. It's not quite as sharp, but it's fine. Like it's good enough. It's perfect for what I need it for, which is really just self-reflection and feeling like I'm talking to somebody to keep the spark lit for the project, which is the spark is pretty much dead for me right now. I'm just so done with this project. Um, anyway, so back to this. We are so yeah. The final question is: should this display layer increment an assignment be in this function, or should it be in the draw animation function? Um, and I personally feel like, well, if we leave it here in setup, then it will not be run again, which means after we reset the display layers of all the cards back to 0, when it round reset runs in this file progression, then it's going to leave them at 0. So whenever we run the draw animation later, immediately after, rather, the draw animation is going to draw these cards, and it's not going to. It's not going to. Let's see. It's not going to have the correct display layer. See what I'm saying? The display layer is going to be incorrect. Yeah. So the draw animation is the function that's run, and it lays the cards out in that staggered format, brrr, like so. And that is not going to look correctly. It's not going to look right. It's going to be drawn in whatever order that it is in the card group, which actually it might work, but no, it's not, because that changes the layer. So then, like, it's gonna go off of, well, no, because the IDs are assigned. So it actually probably would work. Actually, probably would work correctly, because the it's gonna then draw off of the draw order. Since all the display layers are the same, it would go just purely off of draw order. And since it's drawing them in order from like first to last, it would like invariably draw the next one on top of each of the one that preceded it, and that sounds correct to me, which means it would display properly despite the display layer being left at 0. um but like that is what I would call like a ghetto way to attain the goal. And we don't really want ghetto. We don't want implicit, we want explicit. That's what they say, right? Is explicit is better than implicit, which means it's visible and not hidden. It's not like magic. Oh, that's how it displays correctly. We want it to be easily understood. So setting the display layer here to 0, I think, is proper, just because that was how it was set originally. Does it really matter? It might not. Um, it actually may not matter. But personally, I just feel like it's the right thing to do, um, to get them back to quote unquote factory settings. Uh, so, with that in mind, I think we should move this display layer assignment to the draw to. Um, um, I mean, to the draw animation, because that's what it's for. That's why we're setting them up to have a staggered display layer. Thereafter, the display layers are changed. So I think we're just going to move that. I just want to make sure I'm not causing any bugs, making a stupid mistake. And what if what like so I'm thinking about, what about whenever we call setup from like the client side and stuff? Um, because that's gonna happen on the server side whenever we run the draw animation. And although we have it set up to transfer all that data, um, what's gonna happen is we're gonna transfer this data, and the data should just get applied by the clients properly, and that there shouldn't be like any problem there. Um, yeah, because we have it set up to where everything's going to be applied perfectly in order, um, relative to how it happened on the server side. I just want to make sure that, so here in client we call setup, and when this happens, we are not going to be having this we're not going to have this display layer code run if we change it. So that's the question, is like, does that need to be in setup for it to properly display? Well, if the data is transferred properly, like it should be, then I don't think it would be an issue because we're yeah, the display layer and everything is going to be assigned um, when the draw animation uh, changes it. Let's see, hold up. Where is, did I close? I closed locations. Let's go back to locations. Why did I close that? And let's, okay, so we have to, don't, don't we have to enable um, data transfer, the Boolean data transfer? I can't remember for sure, but I wanted to say if we change the display layer, or does that happen internally? Let's see. So if we go to card and then we go to display layer, change display layer. If so, change from check is equal to false and card data transfer is equal to true. We okay. So in this case, when the draw animation is run on this, because this only gets run on the server side. Hold up. I'm just like, wait a second. If whenever we change, okay, because I see. Because we actually do change that card data transfer beforehand, which has to be enabled for the XY and display layer changes to be reflected. So if X, if change from check is equal to false, okay, which would be the case, and card data transfer is equal to true. Now that's the question. And we might need to move that as well, because like if the proper place for this code is inside of the draw animation, then why would we not have it inside the draw animation? Um, so I'm gonna quit after this, but it's getting really late. I'm starting to like crash some. Uh, but card data transfer is equal to true. Now, where we change data transfer, let's see. That's where it's checked. Okay. And we actually set it. We set it in the draw too, and then, but like the only reason that we need it called right here is because we because of the draw animation. That's literally it, right? Because of these two lines right here. Not these two lines. Because of really just this one line. This is what sets the XY, and eventually if we put that display layer code in there, the display that happened, I don't know if we'll ever know. 25 minutes. So it did crash for a second and then it came back. I don't know if that means it still works though. Good, like good enough. It's a little bit fuzzy. So it did crash for a second and then it came back. Okay, so it does work when it crashes and then comes back somehow. I don't know if that means it. I don't know if that means it still works though. I wonder if it's because just a bandwidth issue in the internet because my roommate is using the internet as well. I wonder if it's strictly that, just a bandwidth thing. Like since he's now watching stuff high quality, but that's download. I don't know if like download and upload work together, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just download or if it's download and upload they work together. Like, you know what I mean? To cause strain on your connection. Like if you're using download, lots of download bandwidth, that takes away from your upload bandwidth. I don't know. It's really simple. I guess I can ask ChatGPT that real quick. Actually, I'm not worried about it. I want to finish this real quick. So, the last thing is card data transfer. We change it. Okay, so we do need it here because this is run only during a return draw card, and that changes current card X and Y. This is also probably bugged, but it's always worked, so I don't think this is bugged. This always worked before, but like this is technically strange code, and I wouldn't think it would work now that I have better knowledge of Python because this is written. Well, doesn't it output as a tuple? Does .x .y assignment here output a tuple? I can't remember. Anyway, so we do have to have data transfer outside of the function, namely the draw animation function. So we can't put that there, which is fine. I just wanted to make sure like we didn't have it in a stupid place. But as far as the display layer thing, so that part's settled. But the display layer thing is the last thing we need to figure out. And that's in setup. And whenever we run setup, in client, that's not going to stagger the display layers. But when the data gets transferred, like it's not going to change the XY values either until the draw animation runs. So it has to change the X and the Y and the display layers. So if just the display layers are set right here during setup, that doesn't like mean anything, right? Because the display layers are going to be set. I mean, I guess technically you could say we could have them set beforehand so that whenever, like, if the X and the Y comes through first, it will display properly. But it changes each card at a time, like one card at a time. And it should be like a perfectly ordered thing. So that it's going to be changing the X and the Y. And then the display layer. So even if it does change the X and the Y without changing the display layer, yeah, like even if it does change the X and the Y without the display layer, because of the fact that it's going to draw those cards in a particular order, that will determine, um, and since that order is determined by their ID, I'm pretty certain that means it would still display properly. But if we had that code in the setup function, whenever the setup function ran, that would preemptively set the display layers. Um, for the first time. So I just I don't think I think it would work fine if we just moved it if we moved it to the draw animation. That's where it should be because that's what it's for. So if we put it here, we could put it even before the X and the Y so that the display layer is properly set first before we even set the X and the Y. So before the card actually gets moved, the display layer will be properly set. It will like set the display layer and then move the card, set the display layer and then move the card. If it happens in perfect order like it should since we implemented the new data transfer system, this should work exactly fine. And that is like the proper way to do this. Instead of running that in setup and having them preemptively equipped the first time, and then every time after that when you reset the round, it would just like rely on um it would rely on fucking uh the draw order, like the ghetto way, and all the display layers actually just being set to 0 at that point. um that would be like weird. That's a ghetto way. So I'm gonna move it. Yeah, I'm just gonna move it. I'm almost certain this is gonna work. I just like want to make sure I'm not a little tired and thinking. I want to make sure I think things through before I do them. Hopefully I'm not making a mistake here. So let's go to progression, not progression, to the draw animation right here. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna paste this right here. And this is only if card rank is not equal to Joker. And this is because the Jokers are not included in the draw animation. So it's fine. We can just leave it like that. It sets the display layer for all the cards in the deck, ordering them least to greatest for proper visuals. Um, for proper staggered visual. And then display layer starts off at 1. And then we... And see right here, this is where we add the card groups to the card, and this is how the ghetto thing would work, is because they're added in a certain order to the group, from 1 to 108. So that means when it's drawn, if the display layers are the same, it would still properly order them. But like I said, that's ghetto. We don't want to do it that way. We want to do it like the right way, the non-ghetto way. And plus, it's ambiguous as to why that code would be there, and that's weird. You don't want just like code to be in random places. You want it to be like where it's pertinent to, you know, whatever it's related to. So since this is the draw animation, which is responsible for staggering the visual display of the cards, that's where we want the code. So we have the display layer set to 1, But we're iterating. No, this needs to be up here actually. This needs to be above that, right before we start iterating, and this can just be, well, we'll leave that there. Okay, so display layer is going to stay up here. It's set to 1 initially. Then we're iterating through each card in the master deck. And then if the current card rank is not equal to Joker, then this below section says it sets up the display layer for all the cards. And actually, we don't need to have this as a below section. Or, you know what? We'll just include this comment in this one. Yeah, there we go. So now it includes both of those comments. So we set display layer equal to 1. We start iterating through the deck. If current card rank is not equal to Joker, then current card display layer is equal to display layer. And then display layer is going to be incremented after each iteration. So it's going to iterate through the first card, and then it's going to run through all this, and it's going to change the display layer after it's been set here. I guess it doesn't really matter if we were to put it here or here, but I guess it's just kind of cleaner if we put it right there, because we really only want to increment the display layer if it's not a Joker. It really doesn't matter, but it's just like for aesthetics, we'll put it there. So yeah, for each iteration, it's going to check that if it's true, it's going to set this current card display layer equal to display layer, which was initially 1, and then it's going to increment display layer plus equal to 1. And actually, we'll put this immediately under, so it's connected to, you know, the related line. And then it's going to change the X and the Y, change the next card loc, and yeah, that's fine. And then this is the other option. So I think we got this code correct. And now this function's a little cleaner, and this function is a little cleaner as well. Now I will put a caution comment. I'll put it here, and I'll put it in my things to do. I'll put note 8:16:24. I moved the code that assigns the display layer to the draw animation, and we'll specify locations.the draw animation as it was designed for that purpose and is a better place for it and is the proper for it. Leaving this caution comment just in case the move may have caused bugs. There we go. Okay. And then I'll put a similar comment here. And I'll put, I move the code that assigns display layer here from, and then we'll change this to say setup dot, isn't it called setup? Yeah, setup.setup, as it was designed for this location. Leave this comment just in case the move may have caused bugs. Yep. Alright. So I reviewed this pretty thoroughly. Display layer equals 1. Let's put our double stamp of approval on it. Place cards in staggered locations. Top option current card X makes them all appear. Why is this written out like that? Because that's not how it's written. The top option current card X makes them all appear instantaneously. That's not worded right. The top option makes them all appear instantaneously, while the lower subs card movement option moves them one by one. Sets up the display layer for all of the cards in the deck, ordering from least to greatest for proper staggered visuals. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and so for current card in master deck, and that's written properly. If current card rank is not equal to Joker, that's coded correctly. Double stamp of approval on that comment. Current card display layer equals display layer. Yep, that's proper reference. And then we increment display layer plus equals to 1. So it's going to get incremented each time. There are two animation options. Yeah, this one is good. Actually, let me finish reading it before I say that. 1x1 gradient where the individually transferred. One is an instant animation where the cards simply appear at the proper location all at once, while the second is a 1x1 gradual animation where the individual is transferred from the deck location to the final animation locations. One of these lines should always be disabled. Okay. Current card X, current card Y, equals next card Luke. I'm not going to double stamp this because I need to check it. And then this is the second option. I'm not going to double stamp that one either because I don't know if it works properly. Next card Luke, 0 is supposed to equal to 17. Now that is surely correct because we've had it like that for so long and it works. Yeah, alright, so we're done. We did that. Now we can close out all this stuff and go back to progression where it all started. And card data transfer is equal to true for current card in master deck. So we iterate through the deck. Current card X locations that locate that deck. So we set the current card X. I'll review this later. I'm done. Review rest of this up to next asterisk comment. And this one's going to be all the way up to here. That's where we stopped. So we'll put 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stopped here. And the date is 8/16/24. And there we go. Alright. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and quit. So let's see, 10:40. We actually only did 2 hours. More like 2.5. We'll say 2.5. So 2.5 from 10:40, 12:40, 1:10. Just say 1:10, even though the time's not correct. It's fine. So 2.5 hours. 10:40 to 1:10. We continue going through question comments. That's all we need to say. And then we're going to stage and commit and push our changes to the remote repo. So let's say 1:11 because it takes a few minutes. Even though my times aren't correct, it's because I take my breaks differently now and stuff. The time is all scattered. I usually keep better track of that, but it's really not a big deal. So now we're gonna say get branch, make sure we're on the right branch, which we are on secondary. We'll get add dot to add everything. Get commit, and then we're gonna do open quotations, double quotations, and then double close quotations. And it looks like it committed successfully. And now we're gonna do get push Canasta secondary. So now we push this and looks like it worked. And now we're gonna update our remote repo. Um, so let's go to programming projects, Canasta. We'll copy it with Control C, go to backup, delete the old one. We're going to hit OK when this message pops up. Control V should paste it in. There it goes. It's getting pasted in. Now we're going to enter into it, go to text, and then devlog to make sure we are on the right. This is the right copy, backup rather. So yep, 8/16, that's the date today. Now we go back and rename it to reflect today's date. And that lets us know that was the last time we backed it up. And so that's it for today. I'm uh, it looks like the stream is working again, which is cool. I'm excited about that, to be able to actually stream a little bit maybe here in the future if it's like not crashing, because honestly that would just make me mad and spend a lot of time fucking with it. It really got old quick.